All right. Today, we are diving into a really radical, kind of mind bending idea. It's one that challenges the very foundation of what we think the universe is. This concept has been debated for millennia, and it suggests that consciousness itself might just be the fabric of reality. Let's explore it.
So here's a heck of a question, isn't it? I mean, what could possibly link spiritual thinkers from way back in 800 BCE with the Nobel Prize winning scientists who literally unlocked the atom? You'd think they couldn't be further apart, but the answer, well, it takes us on this incredible journey through 25 centuries of human thought.
And there it is. That's the core claim from our source material today. The argument is that experience itself, the simple feeling of being you, right here, right now, it isn't just some accidental byproduct of brain chemistry. No, the argument is that it's the fundamental ground of all reality. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds pretty mystical, maybe a little out there, but this entire line of thinking actually kicks off with a very modern and very, very tough scientific problem. I mean, really think about that for a second. We can map every single neuron that fires when light hits your retina. We can describe the wavelengths, the brain chemistry, all of it. We've got the mechanics down. But none of it explains why you have an inner, subjective feeling of redness. Why isn't it all just dark, unfeeling computation going on inside our skulls? So the philosopher David Chalmers gave this a name back in '95. He called it the hard problem of consciousness. And he called it hard for a reason, to separate it from what he called the easy problems. Now, those easy problems are actually incredibly complex, but science can, at least in principle, solve them. You see, the easy problems are all about the mechanics, the functions of the brain. The hard problem, though, is about our inner world, our actual experience. And the standard view, materialism, which just says that matter is all that exists, well, it has never, ever been able to bridge what philosophers called the conceptual gap between the two. So if matter can't explain consciousness, what if we've had it completely backward this whole time? And that brings us to a radical alternative, one that is, believe it or not, surprisingly ancient. This is just brilliant because it shows how persistent this idea is. You've got the Upanishads in ancient India, Plato over in classical Greece. We're talking about cultures that had no real contact, and their thinkers independently arrived at the exact same conclusion. Consciousness isn't in the universe is in consciousness. And this idea didn't just stop in ancient times. It carried right on into the modern West with some of the absolute pillars of Western philosophy. From Berkeley's famous to be is to be perceived to the deep work of Kant and Schopenhauer. The theory that mind is fundamental, well, it never really went away. It just kind of went out of fashion for a little while. But the most stunning, the most shocking revival of this idea, it didn't come from philosophers at all. It came from the very people who took our understanding of the material world to its absolute limit. And this is a fact that gets skipped in most textbooks, but it is absolutely true. The architects of quantum mechanics, our most successful theory of nature ever, found that their own discoveries pointed away from simple materialism. And their own words, they're startlingly explicit. I mean, just listen to that. That's from Max Planck, the father of quantum theory. He's basically saying that the very act of observing and even talking about reality presupposes a conscious mind. For him, consciousness was the starting point, not some end result of mushy brain matter. And then you have Erwin Schrödinger, another Nobel laureate, and he's straight up echoing the wisdom of the ancient Upanishads. He argued that this feeling that we have of being a separate, individual self, that it's a kind of illusion, and that fundamentally there is only one single awareness. John Archibald Wheeler, he took it even further. He proposed what he called a participatory universe. He was suggesting that reality isn't some fixed thing just sitting out there. No, instead, it's something that actually comes into being through the very act of us observing it. It's like our questions to the universe help create the answers. And look, this isn't just ancient history. This tradition continues today with brilliant contemporary thinkers like Nobel laureate Roger Penrose and physicist Henry Stapp, who are still arguing that mind and matter are deeply, deeply intertwined at the quantum level. Okay, so this is all fascinating stuff, but how could it possibly work? I mean, how could the physical world that we see and touch actually be a product of consciousness? Well, there's a powerful modern metaphor that actually helps make this surprisingly intuitive. So, according to cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, evolution doesn't give a hoot about showing us the truth. Not at all. It only cares about our survival. He actually used evolutionary game theory to prove that organisms that are tuned for fitness will always outcompete organisms that are tuned to see reality as it actually is. Think of it like your computer desktop, right? You see that little blue folder icon? That icon isn't the actual file. Of course not. The real file is just a super complex pattern of voltages and code inside the machine. The icon is just a useful shortcut that hides all that complexity. Hoffman argues that physical objects, a chair, a tree, the moon, are icons just like that. They are our user interface for a much deeper, much more complex reality. Okay, let's try and pull all of these different threads together now, from philosophy, from physics, from cognitive science, and let's see what it all adds up to. You know, when you lay it all out like this, the pattern is kind of striking. You have these completely independent lines of inquiry, philosophy, physics, cognitive science, all pointing in a very similar direction. They are all, in their own language, questioning whether the physical world is really the bottom layer of reality. Now, let's be super clear, this source material doesn't claim this is proven. You can't prove a big metaphysical position like you can prove a math theorem. But the argument is that this idea is at least as well supported as the default materialism that, let's be honest, most of us were taught to believe without even questioning it. 25 centuries. That's how long this one powerful and very challenging idea has been independently rediscovered and re-argued by some of humanity's absolute greatest minds. And really, the stakes here could not be higher. If this view is even partially correct, it pretty much requires us to rethink everything. What science is actually for, what we are, what it even means to be alive. It kind of re-enchants the world. And so, that leaves us with one final provocative thought to chew on. If the physical world isn't just a big collection of dead, dumb objects, but is instead the way that a deeper consciousness appears to itself, then what is the universe trying to experience right here, right now, through you?